Are you rolling?
We are
Yeah.
rolling.
Yeah. I'm Roger Mudd, class of 1950, and I attended the 1948 mock convention in Lexington, which nominated erroneously Vandenberg of Michigan.
And are you looking at the camera or are you looking at
I was looking at the camera,
okay.
but
That was good for
that's
that
not
one.
going to be used, is it? No.
It might.
No.
There may be a circumstance where we do use it. Currently, no,
Could be.
but
Well, let's do it
Don't
again then.
imagine you want to do
Yeah.
it again?
Yeah.
Okay.
you can look at, we can do it both ways. That's fine.
I'm Roger Mudd, class of 1950 at Washington and Lee, and I attended the 1948 Republican convention, which erroneously nominated Arthur Vandenberg of Michigan.
And are you hearing the phone?
I am not hearing the phones, but we should let it die.
To you.
Please.
Okay. I'm Roger Mudd, Washington and Lee, class of 1950, and I attended the 1948 mock convention, which erroneously nominated Arthur Vandenberg of Michigan.
So tell me how you came to be at Washington and L. Why'd you go there?
I got to Washington and Lee on the fancy dress weekend of 1948 as a transfer student from the University of Louisville. I had been in the Army, discharged in '47, and went back to Louisville as a civilian and then applied to 5 or 6 colleges, one of them W&L. And W&L's Dean of Admissions said I could come if I got a B average at Louisville, but if you don't get a B average, don't get on the train, Mr. Mudd. But I got it, and I arrived in the midst of the biggest party weekend of the year, wearing a cheap corduroy jacket and some GI pants that I had dyed brown. Went to class that Monday and got my first look at the Washington Lee gentlemen and knew that I had to get a new wardrobe.
Besides the wardrobe, what were your first impressions when you got there? What does this place look like to you?
Well, I was I wasn't sure that I had picked the right place because the entire town that weekend was dead, getting over this big fancy weekend. But as I got used to the place and I found my way around and became aware that the university with its honor system was something that I had not experienced before, and it made me feel very comfortable. What it did is it took a great weight off your shoulders to be able to put your books down and not worry about them being there after you got back. So that way it was welcoming, and I had good courses, and I must say Washington Lee made its mark on me, and I still revere that mark.
And at some point you heard about this thing they do, this mock convention that they do. Do you happen to remember when you learned of it, and can you sort of take me in the way it showed up for you?
Yeah, the mock convention of 1948 was my first and only, and I was from Maryland, and so as one of the numerous Marylanders, I was parceled out to fill out states that didn't have a lot of students, and therefore I was assigned to Michigan. In fact, I was the vice chairman of the Michigan delegation, and we were pumping for Arthur Vandenberg. And my memory was riding in the parade in a convertible, and I had a Indian headdress on and a blanket across my chest and war paint on my face, and the signs read, "Vandenberg for chief." Well, they nominated Vandenberg, and we have lived with the embarrassment ever since. But beyond the parade, My memory is faint about what else. I wasn't part of wasn't part of the negotiations about how long we should hold on for Vandenberg and which ballot should we shift. We were all Vandenberg.
But just sort of in broad strokes, can you give impressions of what the 1948 mock con was like? I mean, just, it was noisy, it was colorful, give me a sense as much as you can of
I have a
what you recall.
total blank, Joe. Sorry about that.
No problem.
No, I don't even remember being on Doremus Gymnasium, by the fact.
Okay. So I'm going to jump to tell us about your experiences later. And so eventually you became a journalist and you found yourself on real convention floors. Can you kind of just tick off those years for me and give me if there's a connection you can make to the mock con, even obliquely?
I finished Washington and Lee, went to graduate school, and somehow by hook nor crook became a journalist and was working at CBS and was a floor reporter for CBS and covered the 1964 Goldwater Convention, the 68 Nixon Convention in Chicago, the 1968 Democratic Convention.
Why don't you start that list again?
Okay. As a reporter for CBS, I covered 4 national political conventions: 64, 68, 72, and 76. And as much of an honor as we all thought it was to be named a floor reporter, it probably is the least exciting assignment you can have, simply because you're on the floor and you're dealing with people who want to con you into thinking that Indiana has got the key to the whole world. And you're fending off guys who want to say, hey, Mud, let me tell you something. And you're under pressure on the floor to come up with stories. But the problem always was that the stories didn't go anywhere, and you couldn't check them out. You had no way to double source things. So as a consequence, it was very frustrating just to be on the floor and try to tell the truth of what was happening, because nobody would tell you the truth.
So that was not what happened at the mock con. There's no parallel there.
No. Compared to the real life on the floor, the mock convention, while it has many similarities to the real one, doesn't have the swirl of floor politics. It doesn't have operatives going from delegation to delegation, promising secretarial cabinet appointments in return for votes. You don't have any of that, but you do have the real learning experience of putting together yourself as a student body, handling a $500,000 budget, scheduling speakers, arranging for them to be brought in with the band fanfare of the orchestra and so forth. All of that is maturing, and it gives you a taste as a student. It gives you a taste of what it's like to be on your own and do something that's important and has, in effect, some national implications. Because when the Washington and Lee mock convention became a seriously regarded exercise, newspapers, television from all over the country came down to Lexington, and speakers began to come and pay attention to the decision that was going to be made. Because at some point, I think probably in the late 50s, maybe 48 to 52, the senior students and the law school students, in fact, decided to change the convention from being a frat boy beer bust into a serious operation. And they got in touch with the committee chairman, the party chairman from each of the states, made themselves known, sent out questionnaires, and got to know everybody, got the right phone numbers to call. And that way they were able, in the pressure of the convention, to replicate approximately how each state would vote when the time came. And they've done a reputable job. I think out of 26, 27 conventions, they have missed 6 times, which is a pretty good record.
Are those numbers right, Bill? Do you know?
We'll check.
Okay, I just don't want to put you on the record.
we'll-
We won't use
we'll
it.
ver- yeah.
It's 20. I counted as 26 because there were 2. There was 1920 and 1944 were not.
There are a few
But it's six mistakes out of 26 or 27.
I'm bad at
Want me to
that.
do it again?
Although the most interesting one is the fact that y'all got it wrong.
The what?
You got it wrong in 48.
Yeah, that was.
Because
That's one.
That's the
That's
rarity. Yeah.
there was Mr. Harmon in 2012, Vandenberg in 36, Vandenberg in 48, Teddy, Hillary, and there was one more.
72 is wrong.
Huh?
Except the first one you said
Harmon.
You said in 2012. You didn't mean that.
Huh?
You meant 1912.
I mean 1912.
Yeah, you said 2012.
Oh, I did.
Yeah, you want to say it again? And
Yeah, what was his name? Harmon, yeah, 2012. And there was somebody, I've got it written down somewhere.
you want to take them off again? 1912, Harmon. Bill's ready when you're ready.
We are ready.
So,
Okay.
well, there have been 26 mock conventions. No, that's not right. No,
25.
25? Oh,
That's what-
20.
Yeah,
That's
I
what
think
you just
25
said.
is what you just.
That's what you just
Yeah,
said.
okay. I better do it again, sorry.
And you know what you can do is you can say, there have been something like 25 conventions, but only 6 times did they.
Mm-hmm. Okay, it's
And I don't think
20,
anybody else-
25, okay. 40. Wait a minute. McNary is 40, right, okay. Okay. Rolling?
Rolling.
There have been 25 conventions, and Washington and Lee got them all right except for 6 times. Pretty good record. 1912, Judson Harmon of Ohio. 1936, Arthur Vandenberg of Michigan. 1940, Charles McNary of Oregon. Huh?
Yours.
That's what?
You're forgetting
I
yours.
think you're forgetting yours.
No, it's Vandenberg again.
So he was twice.
Yeah, right, McNary. Oh, okay, all right. God. Why did I agree to
But
do this?
That delivery was so good, though.
That's right.
And so if you just pick it up where you were, that's okay.
The miracle of editing.
We can make it
Right.
work.
Okay, so McNary. So we're up to McNary, aren't we?
Yes.
Yeah, and then so then it's 48 now. Okay, 48 now. Jesus. McNary for you. McNary. Okay, ready? 1948, Vandenberg again. I have no idea what the fascination with Arthur Vandenberg was. 1970. What?
I just wanted to get you looking back at me.
Oh, all
I'm
right.
sorry, I didn't mean to mess you up there.
All right.
Shoot. My
That's
bad.
good. You
My
can
bad.
continue with 72.
Yeah. 72 and then 2008. Oh God. So we're finished with Vandenberg, right? All right. 1972, Edward Kennedy. 2008, Hillary Clinton. That's the 6 of them.
Great. Thank you for that. But there was something that you talked about that I think sort of seemed to strike you amusingly, that is similar between the MockCon and the real conventions, and that's that sort of grandstanding that they do when they announce their vote counts.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, it must have been 48. It must have been in 1948 that the chairman of the South Carolina delegation was a law school student, and I think his name was John McWhorter. And every time the roll was called and they got down to South Carolina, the whole convention, the whole mock convention would wait in anticipation to see what he was going to say, because he was a riot. And I remember the one he did, the convention almost broke up in hysterics. Mr. Chairman, South Carolina, home of democracy, cradle of Confederacy, the home of Stonewall Jackson's second wife, passes. And the whole place just exploded. So everybody waited for McWhorter to stand. It was such a delicious moment, making fun of the guys in the real world who sounded not much better than John.
Great. Did you have anything more you wanted to say about the shift from the frat boy style to the more professional?
I remember going back in let me suppose get the right date. It was the convention that I did for McNeil-Lehrer. What year would that have been?
96.
Huh?
96?
Mm,
Is that the one we have the video of?
yeah,
Yeah, it's 96.
yeah, the 96, yeah. What was it I wasn't going to say about it? Oh, yeah. I remember going back to Lexington in 1996. I was working for the McNeil-Lehrer NewsHour, and I convinced them that it was worth a story. So I went down with a camera, and I infiltrated the Texas delegation. And I remember going to their strategy meetings, and they allowed a camera to come in. And the main burden of the instruction from the chairman of the Texas delegation to the Texas delegates was to applaud like hell, clap your hands off, and anytime there was a laugh line or an applause line, make sure you applaud, make sure you applaud. So when the time came, and Mario Cuomo, I think, was the speaker that year, and there was Tip O'Neill, they got so much applause that they never heard it so loud and so constant as they got that day.
Did you?
It was a Republican convention.
What?
It was a Republican convention in '96 because Clinton was in office.
Oh, so you're saying?
I think you're the convention before with Cuomo. Cuomo was certainly there.
Well, it would have been if Cuomo and Tip O'Neill and that crowd would spoke. It was not. It was a Democratic convention.
It would have been '92 then.
Well,
Because Bush was in office.
wipe it out, and we'll have to check it later.
Yeah. But being there doing that report from McNeil-Lehrer, because I hope we'll be able to get permission to cut in a little bit of that footage. You'd been away a long time, and here you are, and you're coming back, and even when you were there in '48, you weren't really deep into it. Now this time you were deep into it, because here you were doing a whole piece on it. What struck you that time? What do you remember from that really impressed you positively or surprised you? Can you remember anything like that?
Going back after whatever it was, 40 years or so, I was struck with how serious everybody was about their assignment. The students all had different periods. Let me start again. Going back, as I did 40 or 50 years later, no, that's not right either. I'm having difficulty remembering. That's my problem. I went back to Lexington working for McNeil-Lehrer NewsHour. I'd convinced them that the mock convention was worth a story. So with the cameraman, we went down and I infiltrated the Texas delegation. And we filmed the instructions about how to applaud and when to cheer and when not to cheer. But what struck me consistently was how serious everybody was about their assignment. There was a co-ed, if I can use that word, a co-ed who was in charge of the logistics of the whole place, getting the car from the hotel to Doremus, getting this to make sure he got a nice reception. All those details that were sort of not important back in the early days, everything was important. And everybody had a fine assignment, and they discharged it. And the speakers that came were obviously pleased to be there, to talk to a receptive audience, perhaps to light a fire for these young people, to see politicians in the flesh, and to be respected, and to leave with a good feeling about Washington and Lee and the mock convention. I think that was a great contribution that W&L makes every 4 years.
Great. Let's see, you've covered that. And that. Yeah, if this works for you, is there anything that, a little more broadly about W&L now? Mock convention represents, I think, an intention of the university to make it more of a learning experience than it would be without mock convention. And you mentioned the honor code. There are things about W&L that obviously made a mark on you and that make it the place it is. Is there anything you want to say about W&L and just more broadly about the school and its approach to helping students get into the world, equipping them with anything that it comes to you that way? And if not, we'll go on.
There's something about W&L that makes its graduates come back. I mean, really loyally come back. Not just for class reunions, but come back, I think mainly to show their children what it was like, to relive the excitement of being at Washington and Lee, come back to see, hoping it hasn't changed too much, trying to relive this glorious time in your life when you were there and learning and making lifelong friends, knowing that that the professors were interested in you, except Dr. Bradley, who gave me a C- in French. But no, it's a stamp on you that cannot be eradicated. And I every time I go down, and I've gone down more recently lately, I'm flushed with pride that I went there.
You are so good. Thank you. That's great. Thank you. Let me ask you if you could do this in that same flow of thoughts. Now, can you add a reference to mock convention? One of the things, I mean, if it is helpful, one of the things that I keep hearing, you heard it from the guys at that lunch, is that mock convention is one of the things about W&L that is a shared memory and a shared experience that when alumni get together, it tends to come up. So if you could just give me a connection of Mach Kant to the thoughts you were just offering.
Yeah. Well, going to Washington Lee and being a graduate of Washington Lee means that there are lots of ties that bind. Fraternity life, sorority life, the functioning of the honor system, the professors that you made jokes about. But the mock convention is also one of those ties that binds us all together. And I know for many students, that's one of the reasons they go to Washington Lee, to experience the mock convention, to be able to live as close to the truth, as close to reality as they can. And so it becomes a great learning experience. And every time W&L people get together, they remember John McWhorter announcing that South Carolina was the home of Stonewall Jackson's second wife. It's the jokes you remember and you tell again and again.
Beautiful, thank you for that. I think we've done that. You told me about that. I think we're really good on that. I do want to ask you just a little bit, try to work on the speaker question that we were discussing out there.
Yeah.
Before I ask you about that, if there's anything else that I'm not being smart enough to ask you about related to what we've been talking about, is there anything else you want to toss out there?
Yeah. No, nothing. No, nothing comes to mind. No.
Okay.
Right?
I mean, I think what you've said is great. It's so helpful.
Sorry to be such a bumbler on facts
No,
and dates.
It's reality. You know. This is,
Yeah, I had.
you don't sit every day reciting all the dates, do
I
you?
wouldn't be able to do that.
I didn't have, when I worked at CBS, I didn't have a very, I do not have a photographic memory. Dan Rather always did and could stand up, you know. I hope you're not recording this, and I don't want you to.
I will stop
Okay.
if you'd like. I will pause.
Was discharged from Alderson Prison. They sent me out to do it, and they were going to bring her out at 9 o'clock in the morning through the gates, and so we were stationed, and I'd memorized this opening. The car going by me now contains access. Well, here came the car, and I froze like this and could not remember the line. And so, Jesus. So we wound up, you know, voice over. I was not seen anywhere except, you know, saying that a car containing a woman who was thought to believe Access Sally was said to have.
Was that Theo?
Huh?
Was that Theo? Theo? What was her name? Her real name? It's Steve McCormick's wife, right?
Access Sally?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't.
You know Steve McCormick, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, he was what?
He was Mutual, right?
Yeah. Oh, I never heard that.
Well, maybe I've got the Access Sally part wrong, but
It was Tokyo
wife,
Rose and Access Sally were the
his
two.
His wife was the counterpart to Tokyo Rose. Steve's wife, Theo.
Jesus.
Theo.
I don't.
Something like that.
Interesting.
And yeah, I mean, between the two of them, man, the stories they had. Because you know, Steve he interviewed every first lady since Eleanor Roosevelt up to he did not get.
Was he blacklisted after Access Sally?
I never heard him say that,
But I mean, she was indicted, convicted, and sent to prison.
I didn't. Wow. Maybe she was some other kind of thing, not Access Sally, but
That doesn't
similar.
sound.
But she did that kind of a thing. She did that. She did a propaganda broadcast
for the U.S. government.
for the U.S. government.
That's different than.
So Access Sally. Oh, right. Of course.
Access Sally was broadcasting in Italy and Germany.
Yeah. She was the U.S. government version.
Okay.
But anyway.
I was going to call Steve and say,
Steve passed away.
you know what I heard, Steve?
We lost Steve, I think.
Oh, really?
I think 2
Yeah, I remember him. Okay, so where are we now?
So, future speakers, potential speakers.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you can go there, or do you want to just take a pass? It's up to you.
Well, let me try. Just see.
Okay. And so, you know what I'm looking for, if you can do it, is just you're talking to are we doing this one to camera? Potential speakers?
You could do it both ways. We did because we also have one for the students. And when the students say, you need to come to the mock convention, we did have them do it right into the camera like they're talking to the viewer. And so the speaker one is very similar, where you are talking to a speaker or a potential donor, asking, telling them why the mock convention's important.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we could get away with both, but if you
I don't know anything
you wanna
about this.
try both.
About the student reel.
No, don't worry about that.
No, so we
it's
have
just-
just the students are going to do the
Yeah.
student.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But we had them do, the students do both, and so if you would like to do both,
But in this case, it's really the two-camera one that is most useful, probably, isn't it?
if I had to guess, I would say I would choose the directly correct.
And
Right-
this is a
right to the
person who's
camera.
spoken to camera for years,
Right,
so it's not
right.
like
You're not afraid to look into the lens, right?
most people that we're working with don't have any experience looking at the camera and talking to it. So,
'Cause it's-
if you want to,
What is it? What are you asking me to do?
oh, okay. So, it would be best now if you do the next stuff to camera. And all we're asking is then, we're asking for support from potential speakers and also donors, but this is really, it's meant to be a potential speaker, right?
Correct.
Okay, so potential speakers, there's reason to do this. There's good reason for you to sign on and
Yeah.
participate in this, and those reasons are
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
the value to the students, the value to you as an experience other than the money.
Yeah.
Just take any shot you want and
Okay.
see how
All
it
right.
works.
Speaking at the mock convention at Washington and Lee is a marvelous chance for you to be before a attentive, appreciative, eager to learn audience who will hear you out and give you a warm welcome. It doesn't come very often for politicians to have such a welcoming audience as that, and it doesn't come very often for speakers to go before such a collection of young people who are bright and happy to be there and eager to learn. It gives you a chance to light a fire with those young people, to teach them that politicians and public speakers are interested in their learning about you, and I ran out of juice.
That's
Sorry.
okay. That was okay. That was in a good direction.
Yeah. I don't know what else I can say. I don't know where I am now.
Okay. Let me just ask you to take one more at it.
Yeah.
And-
Are these speakers politicians,
Yeah.
or are they? Huh?
Yeah,
They
these
are.
the big,
They are.
These are the big.
So you'd send the tape to current politicians,
Yeah.
trying to get them to come to Washington and Lee and talk at the mock convention.
Right, like the Tip O'Neill and Mario Cuomo. If they could get Bloomberg, or
Yeah.
depending on what the convention is, Christie. Huge list.
And the people that you're speaking to, if they agree to do this, they are certainly they're going to be told this, but you could tell them too. They're following a long list of people who,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, and you've
presidents,
covered them,
all
right.
kinds of folks
Yeah.
have done this. It's not like you're just agreeing to do this for these kids, and you're like the first guy willing to make the commitment. No, many have gone before you,
Yeah.
very substantial speakers, and the students gain very much from your willingness to participate. That sort of direction.
Okay. All right. So if anybody calls you and asks you to speak at Washington and Lee, for Pete's sake, say yes. It's a great opportunity to go before a student body which is bright and eager to hear you and eager to learn from you. Well, okay, all right, let's try again.
How about your personal, how you've personally experienced, you know, the speakers at Washington and Lee, and who you've seen, and these are all top tier.
All right, let's try again. If somebody calls you and asks you to come to Washington and Lee to speak at the mock convention, by all means say yes. It's a terrific opportunity for you to meet a marvelous group of students who are happy, eager to learn, and eager to hear you. I guarantee you, unlike some of your audiences, you will not be booed. You will be applauded and cheered, and it will give you an opportunity to follow in a long line of distinguished speakers who've come to Lexington. Tip O'Neill, Mario Cuomo, Dan Quayle, a long list of Republicans and Democrats who think that the Washington and Lee mock convention audience is worth talking to. It's your chance to light a fire in a new generation that is about to emerge and join perhaps the political ranks with you.
You are so good.
That was great.
Jesus.
Stop making those faces about yourself. That was
Well,
great.
I'll
Thank
be
you
sure
very
to
much.
catch
The what?
Want to do some room tone here?
Room tone, oh yeah.
tone without the tone in the room.
I heard some little creaky noises.
Yeah, there's a little bit of stuff. We'll be quiet a minute here. Actually, I'll frame it so that in case we need an intro of some type.